I first began to sense something had shifted with Sandra months before the reunion was even mentioned. It wasn't obvious at first, just subtle changes. She started staying later at work, then coming home and burying herself in her phone as if it held a world she didn't want to share with me. We'd sit together on the couch, but she'd be lit up by that screen, smiling at messages I never saw. At the time, I brushed it off. Maybe she was just catching up with friends, unwinding after long days. Everyone needs a little escape, I told myself. Then the reunion came up, just casually at first. It's been 10 years, Danny, she said one evening while chopping vegetables. Everyone's coming back. It'll be fun. I nodded and told her it sounded nice. She smiled, but there was something distant in her face, as if her thoughts were already miles away. In the weeks that followed, the reunion became her favorite topic. She bought new clothes, played with different hairstyles, booked appointments she'd normally skip, even for special occasions like our anniversary. One night at dinner, I watched her light up talking about some old classmate. "You're really going all out for this," I said, trying to sound casual. She laughed lightly. "I just want to look nice. It's been a while." I smiled back, though something inside me sank. I asked if she wanted me to go with her. Her fork stopped midair for just a moment before she said, "It's just college friends. You'd probably be bored." It stung more than I expected, as if my presence would somehow spoil her night. I told myself I was overthinking, that it was nothing, but I couldn't shake the knot forming in my chest. When the night of the reunion came, she descended the stairs looking like someone from another life. Navy dress I'd never seen, flawless makeup, heels too high to wear for comfort. She looked breathtaking. "Wow," I said. "You look incredible." "Thanks," she replied without meeting my eyes, fiddling with an earring. I asked one more time if she wanted me to come. She hesitated, just a fraction, but I saw it. "It's just old friends," she said again. "Really? You'd be bored." So I nodded, acting indifferent. But the moment the door shut behind her, I grabbed my keys and followed. She drove to a bar I knew well. I parked across the street and waited. It didn't take long for him to appear. David, the name I'd heard before, the guy who stayed in town after college. The way she lit up when she saw him told me everything. They hugged too closely, stood at the bar with their heads bent together, laughing, her hand brushing his arm like it belonged there. After about an hour, they slipped outside. I stayed in the shadows, heart steady, hands calm. Under the street lamp, he pulled her close and kissed her. It wasn't a quick, nervous kiss. It was slow, easy, practiced. I raised my phone and took a few photos, not out of rage, but out of quiet certainty. This wasn't new. This had been happening for a while. I drove home in silence, no music, just the sound of the road and the image of her smiling against someone else's mouth burned into my mind. The house looked the same when I returned, her coat by the door, porch light glowing, but it felt empty, as though she'd already left for good. I sat at the kitchen table and went through the photos. They told the whole story. Her joy, the closeness, the kiss. You can excuse a lot in a marriage, but not that. When she came home at dawn, barefoot, makeup smeared, hair disheveled, she didn't even notice me standing at the top of the stairs. She tossed her keys down, kicked off her shoes, and collapsed on the couch like nothing had happened. I stood there watching her for a long time. Then I turned and walked back upstairs. I wasn't heartbroken. I wasn't angry. I was certain. This wasn't a rough patch we could fix. This was the end. But I didn't leave right away. That would have been too easy. She needed to feel the weight of what she had thrown away. Over the next few days, I quietly began preparing, found a small apartment across town, and started putting my exit into motion. I found a small apartment, no strings attached. Opened a new bank account, rerouted my paychecks, kept my head down. Quiet, deliberate, invisible. Sandra carried on like nothing had changed, still telling me about late meetings, still claiming girls' nights, still smiling at her phone. She had no idea. But I already knew. One night at dinner, she sat there sipping wine, scrolling between bites. "Saw someone who looked like David the other day," I said casually, spearing a piece of chicken. For just a fraction of a second, she froze. "David," she repeated, pretending confusion. Haven't seen him in years. I just nodded and went back to eating. I didn't need her confession. I already had the truth. I kept my tone light. Wasn't he at the reunion? No, she said too quickly. No, he wasn't there. I smiled faintly. Right. Not at the reunion. Just pressed up against you in a parking lot last week. I didn't raise my voice, didn't accuse her. I let it sit there between us, then dropped it, allowing her to stay wrapped in the comfort of her lies, for now. That weekend, while she was out shopping, I packed what little mattered: clothes, documents, old photos. The rest I left behind. The house wasn't home anymore, just walls, just furniture. Before walking out for good, I slipped off my wedding ring and set it beside her half-finished glass of wine on the counter. No yelling, no scene, just silence that said everything. That night, I watched from down the street as she came home. She climbed out of the car barefoot, heels dangling from one hand, laughing at something on her phone. She stepped inside, closed the door. 30 seconds later the porch light came on. The door flew open. She rushed out, looking around the yard like I might magically appear and forgive her. But I stayed where I was. The calls started almost immediately. My cell, my office, then my brother Christopher. I ignored them all, picturing her pacing through that half-empty house, realizing piece by piece that the life she thought she had was already gone. Later Christopher called again. Want me to deal with her? He asked, hearing the banging on his door. I've got it, I said. When I finally pulled up, she was waiting outside, arms wrapped around herself, mascara streaked, eyes raw. Danny, she said, her voice breaking. Please talk to me. I stood by my car, watching her. You lied, I said, calm, repeating it again and again. And you thought I'd never figure it out. She shook her head, desperate. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. I laughed once, hollow. You kissed him like a teenager. You got in his car. That's not a mistake, Sandra. That's a choice. Tears streamed down her face. I love you, she whispered. No, I said. You loved the version of me who still believed in you. She reached for my jacket, but I stepped back. You lost, I said evenly. You just didn't notice until it was too late. Then I got in my car and drove away, leaving her under the porch light, alone. My new apartment wasn't much, second floor, quiet, decent view, but it was mine. No ghosts. No memories. The next morning, I mailed the divorce papers. I didn't wait for a reply. I didn't need one. She tried everything after that. Calls, texts, showing up at Christopher's again. But I stayed silent. The divorce went through cleanly, no drawn-out arguments about property or money. She could have the house, the furniture, the framed smiles on the walls. I just wanted peace. 2 weeks later, Mark, an old friend who never picked sides, called. You hear about Sandra? No, I said. She's falling apart, he said. Not working, barely leaving the house. People say she spends most days in bed. I said nothing. There was nothing to say. She lit the match. I just let the fire burn. A few days later, the signed papers arrived. Her signature shook like it had taken everything she had left. No note. No final plea. Just an ending. Quiet. Complete. Friends checked in. Christopher asked how I was doing, but I wasn't unraveling. I wasn't angry. I felt lighter than I had in years. Sandra stayed stuck, trapped in that big house, the empty closets, the wine stains on the carpet, surrounded by what she'd lost. Mark said she tried dating again, but nothing lasted. Maybe because it wasn't about finding someone new. It was about losing someone who had given her everything. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want closure. Her life had become its own consequence. Every morning she woke up in that house built for two, she felt it. Sometimes I'd sit on my balcony with a beer, watching the sunrise, thinking about the man I used to be, the one who waited up at night, hoping love could outrun betrayal. I didn't hate that man. He just hadn't learned yet. Sometimes it takes losing the wrong person to find yourself. Sandra's real mistake wasn't the kiss, the car ride, or even the lies. It was thinking I'd still be there when she finally decided to come back. But I wasn't. And for the first time in years, I wasn't waiting anymore. I was gone. Free.